remember not to make faces.
Welcome again to the Pickens County Republican Party primary debates. This will be our last debate for the year, and for the primary debates for the year. And tonight we'll begin with or end up with the sheriff's race. We certainly appreciate Sheriff Donnie Craig and Mr. Chris Tucker for coming in and being a part of this debate. But Pickens County citizens, I hope you take note of the debates before this one and this debate that we're fixing to get into now. We're really hoping that we help to make up your mind as to who you want to vote for and who you would like to be sheriff for the next term. So getting started, we'll do some introductions and then we'll go straight into the questions. Here we have with us this evening Sheriff Donnie Craig. He has spent most of his adult life in Pickens County. His wife is Tina, and he has two kids, Tyler and Ashley Craig. He's been in law enforcement in Pickens County since the early 90s, and the last 12 as our sheriff. Mr. Chris Tucker is a Pickens High School graduate, Army combat veteran. He has 14 years of law enforcement experience. He's currently employed by Lockheed Martin as a logistics management analyst and reserve deputy, and he is also a reserve deputy with the Effingham Sheriff's Department. So we certainly appreciate both of these men for being with us this evening, and we will go ahead and go straight into our questions. First question this evening will go to Sheriff Craig. And Sheriff Craig, it has been consistently expressed by citizens throughout the community who feel that the county at large has a drug problem. It can also be argued that drugs expand into increased property crime and violent crime. Would you perceive this to be a true statement, and if so, what do you plan to do to address this issue?
Okay. I agree that we have had a drug problem over the years, and we continue to have issues. When I took office 12 years ago, one of the things that we wanted to focus on and have focused on is the drug problem. At that time, we were part of the Zell Miller Mountain Parkway Drug Task Force, which was a tri-county task force, consisted of Pickens, Gilmer, and Fannin counties. We actually stepped up our drug enforcement with that task force, and again, we were part of that task force for several years up until August of last year. August of last year, we disbanded the task force to focus on our drug enforcement a little more with Pickens instead of the other two counties. We were able to combine our efforts with Cherokee County. With that, we went from having one agent working drugs in Pickens County with the task force with Zell Miller, and now we have 3 full-time agents working Pickens County, and we have access to an additional 16 agents through the Seaman's task force with combined efforts with Cherokee County. Just in the short time we've been working with Cherokee County Seaman's, we've been able to make over 100 arrests and have some of the bigger cases that we've worked since that time. So we've been very pleased with those efforts, and we'll continue working. The thing about our drug task force and the drug enforcement is it don't only affect just the individuals that are using the drugs, it affects the families. And I don't believe we can arrest ourselves out of this situation. I think we have to continue working with our accountability courts and looking at other ways to help the addicts and the families that are being affected by these drugs. We also, again, we have to continue looking at different ways to enhance our drug enforcement, not only through the task force and through other relationships that we have, such as Cherokee counties, but stepping up through our K-9 program that we've started, and our interdiction or specialized units that we've got that is working closely with our drug task force as well. So.
Mr. Tucker, same question. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, sir.
Okay.
So, great question. Over the last decade, there's no question we've had a pretty large drug epidemic in Pickens County. That's been pretty much unaddressed. My plan is pretty simple. Growing up a kid here in Pickens County, my parents were addicts. I was out of foster home my whole life until I was adopted by a youth minister when I was 14 years old. So I have a complete understanding of what a lot of people are going through. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a drug addict. I want to lose everything that I've ever worked for. And so with that being said, I think we've got a huge problem that we've got to put some effort into for once. I'm partnered with a local business that wants to donate more canines to the community, to the schools, and really attack this drug epidemic. I think one of the big plans that I want to do once elected is to create a crime suppression unit. That unit will focus on street level drug activity. It will focus on crime, everything of that nature, because you don't have drugs without crime. They run hand in hand. And again, we've got to do something. You know, Sheriff Craig spoke about their specialized units. At the end of the day, when you fall into a group of Cherokee County or Seaman's, we take a back burner. Cherokee County is huge. So those deputies, those attached folks, we're not a priority. And so I want Pickens County to be a priority. I think that our citizens deserve to be a priority, and not an afterthought. I don't like the idea of being completely, I don't like the idea of having Cherokee County fixing all of our problems. We pay enough in taxes, so I think we deserve to have a self-sufficient sheriff's office. We can't continue to have someone else fight our problems and our issues. So under me, I would definitely make that a huge priority, and we're focusing on the meat and potatoes of the crime and drug issues. So the other thing he spoke about was the specialized guys that currently work canine. You have one canine, and you have what they currently call a crime suppression unit. You can't suppress crime with two people. It's just not. It's not a real thing. You need proactive people. We got to stop the days of just reacting to crime and expecting something to change, because it's clearly not going to work. It clearly hasn't worked in a decade. So, thank you.
Vote. All right. My opponent wants to talk about how you can't depend on another county, and we need to focus on Pickens County. Now, that'd be great if we had plenty of money. I can tell you that our relationship and our partnership, not only with Cherokee County, but the surrounding counties, has been tremendous. It has worked out very well. We've gone again from having the Zell Miller Mountain Parkway Task Force, where we have one or two agents working Pickens. Our partnership with Cherokee County has allowed us, again, to build up to 3 full-time agents working Pickens County that we pay for, that work in Pickens County, but also has additional 16 agents that we have access to. That's 16 agents that we're not having to pay for. That has worked out great for us. We also have access to the SWAT team. You know, there's no need for us paying for SWAT team when we don't have to have those agents or those people working full-time for us. Again, I'm sure we'll get into the budget here shortly. If we had unlimited funds, it would be great if we had an entire task force of 16 people or even 6 work in Pickens County. But we don't have it. We have to use the resources we have available. It's working, and it is working much better than it ever has before. Thank you.
Absolutely. The statement there was, if we had plenty of money. I think if we use our money wisely, I think you could have those teams, you could have those specialized units to address these issues. Like you said, we'll get into the budget here in a little bit, but as everyone in the community knows, there's absolute waste and wasteful spending within the sheriff's office. Again, having access to the SWAT team, that's great. It's great. I think Sheriff Reynolds has a great SWAT team down there, and they do a lot of great things. However, I know personally, from running a SWAT team in Savannah, I know that time is of the essence. And if your family is on the other side of that wall with a barricaded gunman or a hostage situation, we're not going to stand by the front yard and wait for Cherokee County to show up. I don't care what it costs. I'm not going to put the life of our citizens on the back burner due to cost. We will make it work. So it's all about managing your money properly. Thank you.
Again, you've got to have the money before you can manage it. Having the last 10 years, to go back to the SWAT team, we've had 10 call-outs in 10 years. So that's just absurd that we spend the amount of money that we need to put together a SWAT team. We train our guys every year to be able to respond and hold the scene and take care of what needs to be taken care of. Currently have 2 full-time guys that are assigned to the SWAT team that can take care of things while we're waiting on them to respond. Again, I have a great relationship with the surrounding counties, whether it be Georgia State Patrol, Cherokee County, Gilmer County, and we use those resources, and we use those resources well. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So we talked about, again, spoke about the unlimited money. And I tell you, it doesn't cost a lot to make those things happen. One of my big plans would be to hire a grant writer to help offset those costs to our citizens. All it takes a little bit of accountability, and that's something apparently we don't want. It hasn't been encouraged here under the current administration. But we can hire a grant writer, write grants to get certain things to offset those costs. And again, we have money to do other crazy things, but yet we spend tons of money on other things, but yet the safety of our citizens isn't a priority. It should always be paramount. That's what the priorities of life are really about. So I say there's no such thing. Thank you.
Real quick, so we ain't even got started. We've already hired a grant writer, we've employed a SWAT team, and now we've started our own drug task force. We ain't even started on the budget yet, so it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. We'll move on to the next.
All right. Question number 2 will be to Mr. Tucker. What do you feel is Pickens County's most pressing law enforcement issue?
Great question. So I believe our most pressing law enforcement issue is simply the attrition, the turnover. Within the last 5 years, the Sheriff's Office has lost 115 deputies. Whatever the reason that may be, the cost to hire and retain quality employees, it's a huge, huge issue for the taxpayers and for the budget. It takes a huge impact on the budget. So I think if we can hire quality employees and we can retain quality employees, then a lot of the things we can really address from there, because again, the budget issue stemmed from, a lot of times it stemmed from the attrition rate, crime. A lot of times it's because we aren't out enforcing things. When you are, 10 years ago you had 3 deputies working the street. Today you still have 3 deputies working the street at times. So you aren't actively out patrolling doing anything. And what you have to do is not so much become a reactive police department. You got to be proactive. You got to get out there and do the job and be seen in the community and partner with the community through different programs to get buy-in, to have the citizens want to be a part, and they're our biggest asset. Okay? Because frankly, without our citizens and our taxpayers, we can't accomplish anything. So.
Sheriff Craig, same question. Would you like me to repeat?
If you'd repeat, and then can I rebut that and then answer the question, but answer
You
the
need to
question
answer
and
the
then
question. You need to
rebut
answer the
his-
question first. He rebuts, and then you can go back.
Okay.
As long as we stay on the subject, we'll be good. Sheriff's Office, what do you feel is Pickens County's most pressing law enforcement issue?
Okay. Again, I'm going to go back to the first question that we had. I think one of the biggest issues that we've got to continue to focus on is our drug problem. While I don't think we have the drug problem that some of the surrounding counties has, I think we have to continue focusing on those issues. And again, we can't arrest ourselves out of the drug problem. We have to continue working with our accountability courts, working with those that are affected, because as we said, it not only affects the drugs, but it affects those other crimes. Now, outside of that, if I could address the other, my opponent wants to talk about the attrition and the turnover rate. That is not only a problem here in Pickens County, but it's a problem nationwide. 66% of the agencies studies have shown that have a decline in applicants, and also they're seeing employees seek outside jobs outside of law enforcement. And we've seen that here in Pickens County as well. Just in the last 18 months, we've lost 24 employees. Out of those 24 employees, 8 retired, 6 were terminated, We had 5 that left to seek other employment elsewhere in law enforcement, 4 left to get out of law enforcement altogether, and then 1 moved outside of the area. So it kind of gives you an idea about our attrition.
Mr. Tuck.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my opponent here says the nationwide stats. At the end of the day, we live in Pickens County. Our job is Pickens County. I don't care what happens in South Georgia, East Georgia. I don't care what happens in Gilmer, Pickens, or Gilmer, Fannin, or Cherokee County. I care about what happens in Pickens County, because that's what our job is to protect, as our citizens here in Pickens County. And he's right. We lost a lot of employees. You mentioned about the SWAT team. When they first paired with Cherokee County SWAT team, 4 Pickens County deputies made their SWAT team. Within a year, 2 of those deputies have left our agency to go work for Cherokee County full time. So we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with this partnership at times. And again, I think there's a better way of conducting business there.
Sheriff Craig.
As far as losing, we did lose 2 of those guys that went to Cherokee County, but we were also able to hire 2 out of Cherokee that came back to us after they completed mandate, which is hosted here in Pickens County. Again, we'll go back to attrition. Several things that we've done to help retain employees, and that is to increase our starting pay that we've done over the years from $22,300 up to $33,900, which is a considerable amount of increase for our starting salary. We've also implemented several other programs, such as if you've got a college education, we give you a bump in pay. We help get you in a mandate and kind of give you an advancement to help you with your career. Having the Georgia Public Safety Training Center hosted right here in Pickens County has helped us not only retain people, get them into mandate much quicker. It's helped us as far as being able to employ people from other agencies right here in Pickens County. So that has helped us as well.
Mr. Tuck.
Yes, sir. So the attrition rate is 115 deputies in 5 years. The agency as a whole, at full capacity, is roughly around 94. Well, that's deputies and sworn employees. I'm sorry, sworn and civilian employees. So you do the math. There's no secret. Something's broken, and it needs to be fixed. So we can't keep looking at and pushing the problems off to something else. The true issue is there's something broken, and I'm sure you guys are smart to realize what is broken. It's, yes, the pay went up slightly, but the problem is this. Throughout my extensive research during this campaign, I've seen that certain command staff members, their secretary or whatnot, from 2015 to 2017 got a pay raise from roughly $34,000 to about $45,000. During the same amount of time, a deputy that had been here for 10 years, in those same 2 years, got about a $2,000 pay raise. And so you ask yourself, he talked about if we had plenty of money. Well, I think if we allocate our money properly, we wouldn't have some of these issues. That's just plain and simple.
Sheriff Craig. Again, you want to talk about the pay increase. In 2016, the Board of Commissioners had a company come in and done a pay study for the entire county. They not just the Sheriff's Office. That pay study was implemented, and the Sheriff's Office started in 2016, implemented that pay adjustment, started in 16 and 17, and every employee of the Sheriff's Office had an adjustment according to the salary study that was conducted by Condrey and Associates out of Athens, Georgia. Now, that is not something that we sat down and decided who needed to get paid what. They done salary study. We took their study and we implemented that as one of the only departments in county government that implemented that study. From 2009 to 2020, we have increased the overall pay from the entire staff. $1.1 million is what the pay increase has cost this county to bring everybody up from 2009 to 2020 according to the pay adjustments across the board.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. So we speak of the pay increase, which is great. We've bumped pay up. However, in 2019, Sheriff's Office was roughly $468,000 over budget. So again, clearly there's a problem somewhere. So you're paying people money that we don't have. So let's figure out where the holes are, and let's plug those from continue to leak.
Sheriff Craig.
All right, we want to talk about the 2019 budget overage, $467,000. Of that $460,000, $159,000 was insurance alone, which is 100% controlled by the county finance department and county commissioners. $99,900 was from a generator that was hit by lightning, that was reimbursed and paid by the county insurance company that did not get put back into the county budget. We also had $114,927 overage in revenue, which actually brings our overage, if you subtract those, down to $93,685. Now, we can also talk about the overtime issue that we've had over the last several years, which is when you look at our salaries and our percentage of overtime on our salaries, which is 2% of our salaries. And when you compare our salaries and our overtime compared to, say, the fire department is 10% of their salaries. They're $200,000 versus our $77,000. We have 97 employees versus 49 full-time employees from the fire department.
Sure. So speaking of overtime, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't hear there was $184,000 in overtime. You were over in 2019. Over the last 5 years, $740,000 over their projected budget. So it's either one, not projected correctly, or two, again, you're not factoring in the fact the attrition rate is so terrible. If we could hire and retain quality employees, maybe at some point we could cut off $740,000 and maybe flatten some of that out. I think, again, when it's not your money, it makes it easy to just spend it how you see fit. And I think, I know the value of a dollar. I grew up dirt poor. And I just think we should do a better job with our tax dollars and the trust in the money that's given to us by our citizens.
Well, it's easy for you to sit there and look over the budget when you don't understand the numbers, but I will tell you that if you look over all the budgets and you look at the overtime as a whole, and if you understood how the budget as a whole, or the budget process works, and how that system as a whole has been broken, and the issues that we have with the budget process. And again, I hope we have a budget question so we can get into that and I'll have a little more time.
Sure. I've got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration. I'm pretty well versed in numbers. I'm pretty well versed in the budget. I don't go over mine. At home, when my wife calls and says, "Chris, we have $100 till Friday," I don't go spend $500 because it just really isn't there. So being over budget is not a real thing. When you're using somebody else's money, it's easy to say, "Well, you don't understand the budget. You don't understand why we go over budget." I've looked at every credit card expenditure. I've looked at all the trips, the vacations. I've looked at it all. There's no secrets where the money goes. And so I think I completely understand. I think a lot of our taxpayers, a lot of our viewers, I'm sure tonight, understand exactly everything about this budget and what's really broken with it. And that's one of the main reasons I'm running for office.
Let me say this. If you would like to go ahead and get into your budget, that would be fine, but the rebuttals will only be a minute long. If you'd like to move on to the next question, we can.
Sure, I'm unemotional.
Because I don't think we do have a budget question. But if you all like to keep talking about the budget, that's okay. But if not, we can move on to the next question.
Okay.
I think we can go back and forth.
So we want to go back into the budget, or?
That's entirely up to you all.
Okay.
If you want to keep your button, then that's okay, but understand there's other things here that folks want to know about as well.
Mr.
So-
Long, there's a budget question.
Okay, I apologize. Like I
I
said,
just don't want to miss the budget.
I understand. Thank you. I haven't looked far enough ahead. Again, I'd like to explain what's going on here too. I get these questions right before we start, and that's the reason for the confusion. I just wanted to make sure both candidates had enough time to talk about the budget as much as they want to. Being that as it is, we will move on to the third question, and that will go to Sheriff Craig, which I think this question has been covered as well in the rebuttals, but we'll move on with it also. The Sheriff's Office seems to have a problem retaining deputies. What do you believe to be the root cause of this issue, and what steps would you take to resolve this?
Okay. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the Pickens Sheriff's Office is not the only one that's had these issues. This is a nationwide issue. I do understand that we are the only ones having to deal with it here in Pickens, and it does affect us here in Pickens County. We have had some high turnover rate over the years. Some of the things that we have done to address those issues, one is that we have worked with the Board of Commissioners on increasing the starting salary from $22,300 that we had in 2009. That has been increased by 38% up to $33,900 for a starting salary of an entry-level position for the Sheriff's Office. One of the other things we're doing is making some other adjustments. So if night shift differentials, we make adjustments for those that have college degrees. We make adjustments for those that have certain certifications and things like that. So we are making different progressions as we move forward. And again, our turnover rate has decreased over the last year and a half, 2 years. Is getting better. Now, the one thing I will point out is that our employees or our citizens of this county deserve to have some of the higher quality deputies, and we will not retain those that we do not need to keep. We have had some that have been arrested. We've had some that have had problems when they came here that they just couldn't make the cut. And again, if we're going to send somebody to a house at 2 o'clock in the morning because somebody's trying to break into your house, we're not going to send somebody up there just because they couldn't get a job somewhere else. You deserve the same quality of law enforcement officer that any other county deserves, and that is my job to make sure that you get that when they come up there. So,
Mr. Tucker?
Could you ask that question one more time?
The Sheriff's Office seems to have a problem retaining deputies. What do you believe to be the root cause of this issue, and what steps would you take to resolve this?
So, great question. I think we do, and I stated earlier, we have an attrition issue. I think one of the largest contributing factor is the management style of leadership from the Sheriff's Office. It's not a pleasant place to work at times for a lot of employees, and a lot of guys can tell you that. So, for me, I would go out and put an emphasis on hiring and retaining top quality employees. In the past, what they have done is they've become a burial ground for guys that have gotten fired, left other agencies under bad circumstances. It's just not a good thing to do. And so we're not bringing in quality people that have a vested interest here. It takes roughly $35,000 to train a new deputy. And so we train them, they make $33,000. Then as soon as they go through the field training program, through the academy, they immediately go to Cherokee making $40,000 a year. So all we do, we train people to go somewhere else. So we've got to find people that want to be here. If that's recruiting retired military, if it's recruiting people that have a like-minded interest, is mentoring these kids that have come up through high school and investing back in their lives to give them an opportunity to put something back into the community they love, just like I tried to do. But you've got to make hiring and retaining quality people a priority. It cannot, like the drug problem, it cannot be an afterthought. Because again, our citizens will pay, and hopefully, God willing, that they'll never pay in the area of safety, because right now they're just paying clearly in their pocketbook.
True. All right, now I will tell you this, that we have some of the finest law enforcement officers we have here in Pickens County. One of the things I am most proud of are the staff that we have. One of the things that we've worked on over the last quite a few years is training. You talk about retaining employees. Some of the folks that we've had to leave go in Cherokee County is because of some of the training that they've offered. We've stepped up our training since we've been able to bring the Georgia Public Safety Training Center up here, and we've been able to offer some of the better training. In fact, we have agencies from all around our community come here to take our training. And I take offense to the fact that Mr. Tucker thinks that we only have failures coming to Pickens and working in Pickens. We have great law enforcement officers working in Pickens County that are here because they want to be here. They love our community and they love serving our citizens. They could all go somewhere else and make a lot more money if they so desire, but they are here because of they want to be here and serving our communities. So.
Yes, sir. So, rebuttal to that, I think it kind of got twisted slightly there, but we do have some fine deputies that have done great jobs and really care about the community. We've had some past, we currently have some present. What I was saying was, we have clearly, I can think of 5 right offhand that you guys have hired that have either been terminated, asked to resign, or left another agency under investigation. So we've had and we currently do have great deputies. However, we can't pretend that the lieutenant that you guys hired when I left, you hired him less than a month after he beat his wife in Cherokee County and was fired from Cherokee or was asked to resign from Cherokee County. Those aren't secrets. Those are facts that we can bring up and prove through open records requests. So officers leaving from Canton for in lieu of an investigation, in lieu of termination. So these things aren't, they're not a secret. So we can't, the smoke and mirrors can't continue.
10 seconds.
You have to really face it head on and just acknowledge what's really going on. Thank you.
Sure, Craig.
I'm not even going to get into some of those accusations, but personnel files are open records. If folks want to take a look at those personnel files, they're more than welcome. Again, I stand behind the employees that we've hired. We have great law enforcement officers here. We have taken and given second chance to some other law enforcement officers, and from time to time. But again, we have some of the finest law enforcement officers here in the county. I'm very proud of them. They do a great job, and I stand behind them and the decisions that we've made to bring them here in the county. Our recruiting process that we have is we are recruiting from our Explorer program at the high school. We're working with those kids day in and day out, trying to bring them up, encourage them to get involved in law enforcement. We are working with and recruiting military folks that are getting out of the service. We're going into our high school and our colleges for recruiting, and it is working very well with us, and we're proud of the efforts that we've made with that.
Question number 4. They go into Mr. Tucker. Please describe an ethical dilemma you faced and how you resolved it.
An ethical dilemma that I faced and how would I solve it? I think, do you want a personal experience?
It's totally up to you.
Okay.
It's one of those kind of questions.
Okay.
As far as you want to go, or as
Sure.
far as you don't want to go.
So, like I said earlier in this live stream, growing up the way I grew up here in Pickens County with my parents addicts, my dad was he is a multi-time convicted felon. He likes to drink alcohol, but Budweiser's his beer choice. And so he was a violent man for many years. And my dad recently, when I worked here, my dad came to Pickens County, and I knew my father had active felony warrants. I called the folks over at Jasper Police Department, and I had them go arrest my father in front of Jasper Drugstore. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But again, my values, what I stand for as a man, I'm not going to compromise those for anyone. I'm not going to compromise those for any position, any title, or any notoriety. Who I am is who I am. I'm extremely blessed. You know, God has immensely blessed me and my family. And I always try to stand up for the right thing, even if I'm maybe the only one standing. So to watch my dad go to prison at my hand, it broke our relationship, and it was never able to be repaired after that. But I'm not gonna. But I can't enforce law on someone else's family and not my own. I have values, and I'm going to stick by them, even no matter how bad it hurts.
Sheriff Ed.
I've had, since I've been sheriff, I've had a couple of situations that it's pretty tough to deal with. First time I had a family member that I had to deal with, actually received a call, was in a domestic type situation. I responded as a family, responded up to deal with the situation. When I arrived on the scene, found out that, again, the family member was fighting with his wife, and I called for backup. My deputy arrived on the scene, got there, and of course I turned that situation over to the deputy, and the individual was actually arrested, transported to the jail in charge of the family violence, and that was a tough situation. I had another situation where, again, another family member was involved in an altercation, and I actually turned that case over to the district attorney and asked the district attorney to do the investigation, which removed us completely from that situation. And you know, sometimes it's my job as sheriff, you know, you just got to either step aside, let somebody else take care of the investigation, or step up and do what's got to be done. So, you know, I've been accused through this campaign of being unethical and doing things and to cover up for other folks. And if I'm not going to cover up for my own family, I'm dang sure not going to cover up for anybody else. So, and those are the two situations that I think that are off the top of my head. So.
Okay. Question number 5. This will go to Sheriff Craig. Not including the task associated with Mr. Craig's current role as sheriff, I would like to know, and in what capacity the candidates are actively involved in the community. For example, do you do any volunteerism or community service?
Okay. I volunteer with you know, a lot of different areas. Of course, when I bring this up, Jeep Fest is one area that we put a lot of time into through, you know, personally, I do a lot there. I work and have put a lot of time in with the Georgia Sheriff Youth Homes, dealing with a lot of the children. I help with just a lot of different programs, working with Revolution Church. We've got out and help them with a lot of the different service Saturdays and different programs with involving children and you know, people in need. And you know, honestly, all I do is pretty much work and try to help the community. So you know, I just trying to think of other things right off the top of my head. We're always trying to help, whether it's help the elderly, do different things in the community, or the children is really where my main focus is, working with children. So.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. So I go to Woodstock First Baptist Church here in Jasper. I help out there when I can, when I'm not working. I do a lot of things behind the scenes. I mentor high school kids. I've just recently finished mentoring a young lady for her senior project. One of her senior projects was to, she wanted to be a dog trainer when she grew up, or when she got out of school. And so her senior project was to work in that area and do that, and put together a extensive workup, I guess, of how she's going to become that, and then get some on-the-job training in that area. So I've done that. I've helped lots of things. I've helped a lot of people in need in the community. I just do it a little differently. I do it behind the scenes because that's who I am. You know, growing up the way I grew up, a lot of people in this community has given a lot in my life. They've helped raise me. And so I do the things that I do. The things that I give back, I don't do it for anyone else other than me. I give it back to the people that need it because I care, because so many people gave back into my life, because I wouldn't be the man I am today if people hadn't taken an interest in my life and given to me. So I do those things because of who I am, not because of any campaign or election. You won't see much on my campaign poster or anything else throughout the last year or more of anything that I've done in the community, because I'm not going to use someone else's issues or hard times to further my platform, my campaign, because I do it because of who I am. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to the next question. This will be for Mr. Tucker. What are your thoughts on the current Pickens County Sheriff's Office budget, and do you feel any changes need to be made to how these funds are allocated or to reduce spending?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Great question. So I think we've hit, Sheriff Craig and I both have hit budget pretty hard here recently. So looking at the budget as a whole, right? We can look at the other county budgets, the fire department. We can look at tax commissioners, but everywhere, right? But what I'm focused on is the sheriff's office budget. And over the last 4 years, they've been roughly $1.2 million over $1.2 million over the budget. And again, in the real world, that's not real. You can't do those things. I think that we have to really put an emphasis on where this money's going. We've got to make sure our finance director at the sheriff's office, whoever's going to run that, and make sure they're putting their due diligence in. Make sure they're actually understanding what the budget looks like. He asked me earlier, or he stated earlier, that I don't understand the budget. But again, it's pretty complex, but it's real simple. And if you spend more than you have, it creates a problem. It creates a vacuum all across the board. So what's happening is it's just kind of throw something against the wall, see what sticks. They're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And there's no true, real budget there, and they can't stay within it. You look at the numbers. In 2015, which was the last, getting ready for election, right? So it's 12,000 over budget. 16, 247,000. 17, 248,000. 18, 321. 19, 468. It continues to grow. At what point does the bleeding stop? At what point do we put an emphasis on the true problem? Like I spoke earlier, hire a grant writer. Let's offset some of the costs to our taxpayers. We can buy things we need without ripping the budget apart. And then and getting a handle on the overtime. We've got to fix it because it's a huge contributing factor to the broken budget. Get some of this higher command staff that are salary employees. Let's get them on the street when we have a shift shortage. Let's not let them sit in the office and making $60,000 a year and never go out and do anything on the road. So we can address it a multitude of different ways. So.
Sure, Craig.
All right, thank you. First of all, our budget process, as I've said recently, has been broken. And what I mean by that is we should not wait till the last day of the budget meetings to sit down and discuss how much money it's going to take to operate the sheriff's office or any other department for that matter for the following year. The budget should be a plan on how we're going to operate within the next 12 months. That has not happened. Our budget has been increased over the last 12 years by $2,075,000 in 12 years. Our salaries have increased by $1.1 million, while our group insurance has increased by over $500,000. That in itself is a $1.6 million increase. We want to talk about how we're throwing money away and we're just wasting money. The other thing we need to consider is the revenue. we took on in 2015 to house inmates for Sandy Springs to generate, to date, over $1.4 million. I agree, we have gone over up to 2019 by $1.4 million, but we've also increased our revenue and brought in an additional $1.4 million to help offset that. From 2019 to 2020, we've also increased our overall annual revenue by $500,000. The other thing I want to point out, from 2019 to 2020, we have not increased our staff one bit. We've had the same number of full-time employees today that we had in 2019. But yet, to date, we have a full-time SRO in every school, with the exception of high school, where we have 2 full-time deputies working at the school. We also have 3 full-time agents now working in the drug task force. So we're eliminating some of the top-heavy staff that we had in 2009, putting those people back out on the road and in the field trying to get more for what we've got. So we have stretched about as thin as we can stretch. And we talk about the overtime, which has been one of the biggest areas that we've had on our budget. Now, overtime is not just for those staff that is working over, trying to catch up on calls at the end of the shift. It's also calls from working in inclement weather, or tornadoes, or search and rescue type operations, because that falls back on the sheriff's office. In addition to that, when we're training our staff, back in the day, we didn't pay our staff, it was comp time. Unfortunately, the laws don't allow us to keep building comp time when you can't pay that staff. So today, we're paying our staff when they're doing training. And as I said earlier, we're doing more training today than what we've ever done before, and we're paying that staff to go to training. We don't have enough staff to take off the road in order for them to train, so we're keeping the staffing levels as it is, but we are paying the staff while they're out training.
Yes, please. We mentioned about housing the inmates. Again, it goes back to the cost of saving our community. We can house these inmates that are from other counties, but once that started, we saw an influx of crime. And when I say crime, I'm not talking about just petty theft here and there. We're talking about businesses getting their business cut open with circular saws to the back door and everything getting trashed on the inside. We've had groups out of Atlanta coming up into Pickens County, disturbing the community we all love. And again, at what cost? At what cost? And so yes, we're bringing in some extra revenue. It's great, but I think overall, it's going to drastically affect our community. We send an agent over to Seaman's, but yet that agent makes a lot of money, almost double what a road deputy makes. And then my proposal would be simple.
10 seconds.
A reserve unit. Let's get a reserve unit for these inclement weather issues, and let's truly use those to offset some of the burden and to bring those guys in and actually make them work. We currently have 3, and they haven't worked in 5 years that I know of. And so let's use the reserve unit to help offset the burden. I think it'd be a great idea. Thank you.
Sure, Craig. Okay, rebuttal on the again, housing inmates, Sandy Springs. Those inmates that are brought up here are sentenced for misdemeanor crimes, and they are brought up here to Pickens County housed as sentenced inmates. Once they're released, they are taken back to Sandy Springs and released. What my opponent wants to talk about is the businesses that were broken into and the businesses that were cut. That was part of a what was it called, all about money gang out of Atlanta. Had nothing to do with housing inmates for Sandy Springs or anywhere else. In fact, those individuals were traveling all over Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, and we actually were able to catch some of those individuals here in Fannin County and arrested and charged with gang activity in Pickens and sentenced here in Pickens County. Don't let him fool you at all. That has nothing to do with housing inmates. And I believe as sheriff, we've got to start thinking outside the box, do everything we can to help generate those revenues instead of depending on the taxpayers for the money that we need. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thinking outside the box is a great idea. I'm big on thinking outside the box. just because they're charged with misdemeanors doesn't negate, they may have criminal history. Doesn't mean they don't have violent tendencies in their past. And I remember the arrest, because I believe I was there, that arrested a large quantity of those folks here in Pickens County that were breaking into our businesses. So I completely understand, but I think, again, we have to put the priority of our citizens at a forefront. It can't keep being an afterthought. And I think he's right, we've got to think outside the box. But I don't think that's happening.
One more time, Sheriff Craig, if you want to.
You talk about the reserve unit, we do have just a few people that are on our quote reserve that assist with different projects as we need them. And I know Mr. Tucker talks about his reserve. I'm sure he will share with you how many days and hours he's worked over the last few years himself. But again, our Sandy Springs inmates generates quite a bit of revenue. It does not cost us anything to bring those up here. We've got the cells and bed space to house those inmates. The only money it costs Pickens County to house those inmates is the meals that we feed them. Any medical is included and is paid by Sandy Springs. And again, they have generated $1.4 million back to Pickens County to the taxpayers.
Last time.
Yes, sir. So, real quick, I want to know I want Sheriff Craig to publicly say the names of those reserve deputies once I complete my rebuttal. The names of those deputies and when the last time they've actually wrote a report or anything else. And as far as my time with my reserve time with Effingham County, I worked many hours. And I believe he understands that because he filed an open records request to find out how many hours and how much I truly worked. So he knows the answer. I've worked a lot. And so these reserve deputies and these reserve units, they're made to implement or to offset some of the cost and fill in when we have shift shortages or there's a missing person, when there's things that we need more boots on the ground. What better way than to activate a reserve program to get out there and add another 10 people to the search party, or when we have or a catastrophic event. What better way to have 10 or 15 more people to do that? So I think that will help offset a huge cost to our taxpayers instead of just a thanks.
Sheriff Craig, last time.
Again, we have a few reserve officers that work public events such as Jeep Fest. They work during the holidays to help with Halloween, work in the neighborhoods as we need to. And then, of course, who Mr. Tucker is referring to is my wife, Tina, who's been a certified officer nearly as long as I have. She comes out and works details as we need to. She also works for the state of Georgia as probation, and she comes out and works with the drug task force and search warrants, and works with us when we have children and women who need to be searched or sat with. And she volunteers quite a bit of time working with the drug task force and the criminal investigation division.
All right, next question. Sheriff Craig, that'll be the seventh question. We have one more after that. What improvements will you implement that have not yet been put in place?
Yeah, one of the things, of course, we're talking about back up that has not been put in place. One of the things we need to work on is building a better relationship with some of our elder community, the older folks here. We have, I believe, a population of that we have not reached. I believe we've done a great job working with our children in the community over the last 12 years. We've put a lot of emphasis focusing on them. But one of the areas that I think that we need to do a better job on is working with our older population in communication with them and as a whole with the population in Pickens County. Our communication, I think, needs to be improved. We've done a great job, I think, with our Facebook and getting a lot of information out, but, you know, as I look back over the campaign and seeing a lot of questions and things going on about what has happened over the sheriff's office over the last 12 years, I think we need to do a better job updating the community as a whole. We need to do a better job getting the community involved in not only the sheriff's office, but the government as a whole. So I would like to see us hold more town hall meetings and, again, do a better job communicating as a whole with the community and try to get the community involved in our office.
Mr. Tucker, same question.
Yes, sir. Want to say? Okay. So, again, what improvements I would like to put in place? I'll start out. I've already spoke with a local business owner that wants to donate 2 canines to our agency. I'd make one of them a search and rescue dog / emotional support dog. We have kids that go through traumatic events or people go through traumatic events. I think there are our dogs are some of the best assets you can add at a time like that. And for the cost, free, can't really argue that. And I would add more canines to the schools or to our community, which also will be available to the school. And like I said, I've secured at least 2 going forward once I'm elected. Again, on part of the community programs, we have got to get buy-in with our community. I want to give our community back a voice. It's not about the vested interest groups. It's not about the attorneys backing who, whatever. It's about every citizen in our community. You know, your constitutional rights are what your constitutional rights are. They're real. They're something I stood up. I swore to protect against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. So, giving people back giving our citizens back their voice and letting them be a part of what we're trying to accomplish here in the community. And then again, lastly, I want to add the crime suppression unit, because we have to address the drug issue. That it has to get addressed, and we've got to be aggressive with it. We've got to, you've got to have a unit that focuses on those crime and the drug issues, separate from the animal complaints, the domestic violence things, all the other issues that our calls for service that our guys will write. I want to create that unit and really be proactive on our war against the drugs. You can't ever stop it. You can't arrest, like you said, you can't arrest yourself out of a drug epidemic. But again, that goes back to my point 2, partnership with our community. And let's look at rehabbing these folks. Let's even though you've been arrested, you know, you've done bad things, it doesn't make you a bad person. Let's get back and start treating people like people, not like a paycheck, a pocketbook, a donation, and respect people. I think that's something that in time we have lost. So, thank you.
Sure, Chris. Yes, sir.
One thing he talked about was programs for the community. I've been very proud of the programs we've had over the last 12 years. We've worked very hard, and I realized as soon as I took office, in order for us to do what we needed to do with the sheriff's office, one of the first things we had to do was build a good relationship with the community, because it's not about what we need, it's about what the citizens need. So that was one of the first things we've done. We've built a great relationship with the community. It's not about special interest groups, but it's about everybody in the community. We've done that through our Citizens Academy that we've done. We've done it through our Explorers, working with our children. We've done it through the auxiliary program that we built. We've done it through our Are You OK program that we've recently started, our Project Lifesaver. We've done it through things like tailgating at the high school with the kids before every home game. Before we done the tailgating, we would go and take, feed the kids before or after the game at the football games, to the school resource officer programs where we're in the schools every day working with the kids, building a relationship with the kids. So again, I think we've done a lot of programs and we worked very hard to build that relationship with the community, and so we know what's going on and what those needs are. So.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, lots of programs, and I think some of those programs have great ideas, but without the staffing, without the funding, without true money in the budget to address those things, it's nothing more than just wishful thinking. You really got to to find a way to fund these programs before we launch them. You can't say, hey, let's go do this great idea, but not have the money in your pocket to do it. You can't have a business startup without having some money in the bank to start. So great to have the programs, but let's look at follow-through. Let's look at the promises early on from Sheriff Craig, and look where we're at currently. Animal control, it got sent back. Community watch, community meetings, those things, they don't happen. So let's get back to focusing on things that we can really control, and let's not stretch ourselves so thin that we're really truly just churning our wheels doing nothing. So, thanks.
All right,
Sheriff, please. Yes, sir.
All right, let's talk about funding. All right, the Sheriff's Auxiliary is a nonprofit 501c3 that was started quite a few years ago. The auxiliary helps raise money to help fund some of these programs, such as the Explorers, which they donate to. They help us with the Citizens Academy. They just donated $20,000, I believe it was, to help us, or a portion of the $20,000, which helped us start the Project Lifesaver, which is to help us track some of the elderly folks with dementia, some of the kids with special needs that wander off. They help through our tailgating with the high school. That is done with donations through the Sheriff's Foundation, again, which is a nonprofit. So you're right, some of this does take money, but we're very fortunate that we have some of these other organizations that help donate money to keep these programs up and operational. While we're on animal control is something we started 12 years ago. We got that up and going, and we used our inmate workforce to build and to get that animal shelter going. It saved us over $300,000 to build an animal shelter using inmates, and we ran that up until we were able to turn that over to the county commissioner, because the county commissioner is the one that said he was going to run the animal shelter. It was never intended to be something ran by the sheriff's office, and that's why it was taken over by the county commissioner chairman. Thank you.
So I think like the Project Lifesaver and many of these other things, why not purchase it with a grant? The problem with the grants requires oversight, requires transparency. That's a scary word in this day and age, especially in this office. Accountability. When the state, if we become an accredited agency again, which we had at one point and it's gone, but if we become an accredited agency, we can apply for these grants. There are ways to offset the burden to our taxpayers without costing a dime. All it takes is a little bit of accountability. Again, not all grants are great. A lot of them aren't worth the money that you're going to get out of it. But again, there are lots there that can offset lots of things that I've seen in the budget to help protect our citizens and advance us as we go forward in law enforcement.
Sheriff Craig.
Yes, sir. Again, Project Lifesaver was fully funded by donations from the Sheriff's Auxiliary Program and some drug forfeiture funds. I'm sure there may have been some grants out there. I was not aware of any at the time, but the Sheriff's Auxiliary stepped up and helped us fund that, which we're very grateful for. You mentioned the state accredited that we were. We have never been state accredited, never have we even tried. We were state certified when I first took office, and we received a state certification and recertification, at which time we were voluntary, gave that up. It took a full-time state certified manager to manage that state certification and keep that up. We made the decision to give that up because of the manpower that we needed. We felt we could use that elsewhere. Again, trying to cut things back and use that money where we felt like it could be used better than as a certification manager. We moved that position somewhere else. Thank you.
Last question will be for Mr. Tucker. What do you think is the most important skill of being a good sheriff?
Most important skill. I think the most important skill would just be the ability to self-assess, honesty. I can't really say that, you can't really say there's one specific skill set that can make you a good person, a good leader. I think you need to be tested. I think there needs to be accountability. I think without that, sometimes you lose your way. And I think that's a big thing. I think we can't compromise on our values. So I think that's a huge thing for me.
Same question.
Right, I think one of the main things that you need to have as a sheriff is integrity. You know, I think you have to be able and willing to do the right thing, even when things get tough. As sheriff, I think you have to be able to bring people together. I think you have to be able to work, be able to unite people. You have to be able to rally folks together to get everybody working together. And whether you're dealing with different groups or individuals, whether you're depending on your walk of life, whether your background, your ethnic group, or your regardless of where you're from, I think you have to be able to represent the entire community, and again, get everybody working together. And the sheriff, you represent everybody and the entire community. You're the chief law enforcement officer, and you're there to serve everybody and everyone, no matter what. And I think that's very important.
All right, gentlemen, that's our last question. At this time, we will give you 3 minutes each for your closing remarks and to explain to the Pickens County citizens why they should vote for you. And since we began on the questions with Sheriff Craig, we will begin with closing remarks with Mr. Tucker.
Okay, thank you. So guys, I've given, I sat back and I thought about how to answer these questions. And my approach to this campaign has not been great. I'm not a career politician. I speak what's on my mind, sometimes too freely. But I can tell you, guys, I have a passion for this community. I have lived an entire life of service. I joined the Army fresh out of high school here at Pickens County. I did 3 tours in Iraq. I have worked in a major metropolitan police department where I've served a myriad of different capacities. And I have lived a life of honor and distinction in everything that I've done. None of us are perfect. And the great thing about me is that I will own the mistakes I've made. And I know I get the job done. You know, I had a question recently from a citizen that says, well, what makes being in the Army doesn't make you qualified? And I said, well, then what does? As a veteran, you know, I served on the battlefield, and I've led, mentored, and brought some of the, I guess, raised some of the finest men and women on the battlefield in our country. In law enforcement, I've worked alongside many great units. I've led an entire law enforcement career of success. You know, I've had basically, in the last 14 years, I've had roughly 1,700 law enforcement training hours, to include a bachelor's degree that I obtained for while working as a law enforcement officer. So I think I'm well versed in that realm, that idea. You know, I'm a voice for everyone, and I think again, it's time for change in our community. I think Sheriff Craig's he's had a good 12-year run. He had 12 years to fix a lot of these issues that just keep wanting more and more time, more and more money. We at some point have got to put our foot down and make some more decisions. He's a good man. He's a good guy. Done a lot of great things in our community. At the end of the day, I think he lacks a lot of the things that he's speaking of earlier. That's going to make him qualified to continue leading our agency and lead us to where we need to be. I have those values, those morals, that integrity. I have the education, the real-world law enforcement experience to back that up. So yeah, I think I'm absolutely uniquely qualified to lead our citizens and lead the sheriff's office into the right direction. And guys, I ask for you to vote for me June 9th, and let's get our citizens back on top, get you back a voice, and make everyone welcome in our community. My website is tuckersheriff.org. So take some time, read my platform, go read some of the things about me, some of my bio, and what makes us different. He and I are vastly different when it comes to education, when it comes to law enforcement experience. I currently work for a Fortune 500 company. There's a lot of things that make me uniquely qualified to be your next sheriff. And so I would humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Sheriff Craig.
Thank you. Let me start out by thanking the GOP, Mary Pickens, for hosting this event. Thank each of you at home that have taken your time to watch this debate. I want to thank the citizens of this county for giving me the opportunity to serve as your sheriff over the last 12 years. This is something that I have dreamed of doing for many years. I've been very proud to serve as your sheriff. I've not taken it lightly. I've not taken it for granted, and I never will. I would tell you that, just to be honest, I've been really taken back by all the politics and things that we've had to deal with this go around here in Pickens County. Not just with what we've dealt with here in the sheriff's race, but as a community. Those that have just moved into the county, I've read some of the things online and how some of you are discouraged from voting and just kind of taken back from some of the negative politics. Guys, I want to encourage you to not to get discouraged from what you've read online, that Pickens County is a great place. This is truly one of the best places that you can live. This is a lot of great people here. You'll see a lot of good people say bad things because they're trying to support their candidate, and politics can be tough. I would tell you that when I ran 12 years ago, I made a lot of promises to do a lot of things, animal control, dealing with our inmate work detail, working on the drug problem, just a lot of different things. If you were here, you remember those promises. We met those right off the bat the first couple of years. We've taken on a lot of other things. Again, focusing on our children and their security, doing the school resource officers. We now have school resource officers in every school. Again, that is without adding any staff whatsoever, just keeping those numbers at the same, trying to keep those numbers down. We've done a lot of things with technology. We continue looking at ways to improve our community. You get a chance to check out our website, craigthesheriff.com. Basically, I just want you to know that, Pickens County is my home. This is where I grew up. I've raised my children here. It's where my grandchildren are going to grow up. I want to continue to making sure this is a safe place for them and for others to grow up. I spent my entire adult life working here in Pickens County and working for the sheriff's office. There's truly nothing that I would rather do with my life than serve this community and be your sheriff. And I hope that's obvious. To me, this is about being something much larger than myself. It's just not about, it's just about a calling, just truly about being a call to do what I'm doing. And I would just ask you to, help me continue making a difference for Pickens County. And I would ask you for your vote. I would ask you for your support and your prayers, not only for me and my family, but for our community as we move forward with this election. And again, ask you to support me in this upcoming election. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
We certainly appreciate each one of you for tuning in. We thank both candidates for coming, spending a little time with us, and letting us all get to know them each just a little bit better. Pickens County Republican Party certainly thanks you for your support. We thank you for being here tonight, and we bid you good evening and good night. Thank you.